Hey guys, welcome to Tone Bros. My name's Casey.
And I'm Colin. We're going to get started with our current topic of the day, which has to do with something, maybe it's not a current topic.
It's not really current, but we haven't talked about it. We missed it.
Yeah, so a while back we talked about like some practice tools and what we could use, and we totally forgot we should mention the Katana Go Mini.
Yeah.
So I think, well, you can speak to it because you're the one that was looking for the practice rig, but talk about, a great tool. To me, it has so many feature sets for a practice little plug-in rig. I don't know how we missed it last time.
Yeah, we should have brought this up. We didn't think about it. There's the Katana Mini Go, and then there's also the Fender Mustang Plus or whatever.
Yeah, which, I mean, if you're going to choose two, go Katana.
Yeah, I think so.
No, for sure.
Why do you say that?
There's so many feature sets for this Katana Go. You got a bunch of channels. I say a bunch of channels. I think it's 3 channels, but like you can have like 300 presets or something like that.
I think there's 30 presets.
Okay, 330.
Yeah.
That's close enough. That's more than I need.
I think there's 10 amps in the Katana. There's 25 in the Mustang.
Yeah, but I don't know.
Saying.
I trust the Katana like algorithm type stuff more than I do the Fender.
Yeah, I don't know. The small little Mustang amp has been so popular and so good for so long. I do trust that. They're the same price point. I think they're both $129 or something.
Mm-hmm.
You can probably catch them on sale occasionally for $100 if you're lucky. Right. I think they're both pretty equal. I do like the idea of the Katana Go. It's got a foot switch that's Bluetoothable.
Yeah.
So you can switch through your presets with a Bluetooth foot switch. You just get that little, we would have shown it here, but it's got the little plug that goes into your guitar.
Yeah.
And you step on the little foot switch, it'll change your presets up. They both have tuners built in them.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I think there's like 5 hours of play on that Katana. It's awesome. I honestly, looking back on it, if I was looking for just a practice tool only, I think the Katana Go would have been a better choice than what I done.
Yeah, I mean, you got the IR2, which, I mean, actually, it's more practical for even live setting. So, like, to me, it's the most flexible. Like, I mean, you're not going to gig with a Katana Go.
No, you're not going to. And for me, it's a multi-use thing, so I can use it for practice because it's got the headphones jack in it. However, if you're talking just specifically the best thing for your practice, it's not it. I think this Katana Go might have been a better thing just for practice. Would not have worked for some of the other things as a backup rig and stuff, because you can Bluetooth songs to this or backing tracks to this. Right. You can do all kinds of stuff. It's got the tuner built in it. It's an all-in-one. It's got all your effects in it. Yeah. It would have been a better option, I think. However, I mean,
it's got all the effects you need. I mean, there's so many different channels. I think if you're going for a directly plug-in, because even Vox made, I don't know if they still make, but it's like 1 amp.
Yeah.
And you plug in, go.
You got to plug your little headphones into it.
It's like a Rockman all over again. But let's not get into that. But to me, the Katana Go is like the best plug-in and go.
Yeah. So I think it's a great thing. Like we said, it's not really a current topic at this point.
Yeah.
However, for a practice tool, I don't know. I think the Mustang and the Katana Go are neck and neck for sure. I would lean Katana Go.
Me too.
So you want to go ahead and move into your main topic?
Yep. All right. So, speaking of Princeton that I just got, I have a new amp now to use versus my Tweed Deluxe I've been using. Man, volume, like being able to use a volume knob is so nice.
It's nice.
I gotta say, that Tweed Deluxe, I mean, it's either on or off.
Yep.
But this Princeton's super nice. But the thing is, with a new amp, there's new problems.
Yeah.
So my new problem is that what I did with my Tweed, I cannot translate to my Princeton.
Correct.
So it kind of goes with saying, how we had talked about, like, I want a small board and I want a big board, and my small board's going to handle these amps, and my big board's going to handle these amps.
Let's be clear. I never talked about that. He talked about that.
Yeah. The problem is that's not realistic.
No, it's not.
So new amp, new problems, because now I got to change up my board.
Yeah, your board completely changes.
When you went from a Tweed Deluxe to a Princeton, the EQ shape is different and the pedals just don't quite match.
If it was, if you were going from similar style amps, it would be a completely different story.
Right.
But you're jumping from Princetons to Voxes to Tweeds to all kinds of stuff.
I know. I was like hopeful. I was like, you know what, this EQ shape, it'll be good. But then I totally forgot I'm going to a Princeton to Tweed Deluxe, and that EQ shape is very different.
No.
So I'm going to have to change up my drives. Luckily, I've got the tuner, the delay, my HX1. That's all staying, but my drives are going to have to be switched up.
I think the drive section is the hardest part. However, I would say that occasionally the delay section has to change with a new amp too. It depends how you're running the amp.
I think it depends on if you're you, because you like 20 different delays.
No, you're right. You're right. I do love a lot of delays. But the reason why I'm saying that is because if you're taking an amp that we're not pushing, it was more of a clean platform amp that takes a certain type of delay, that's great. And if you're taking an amp that is pushed, or you're driving into overdrive, you're going to need a different delay, or maybe you even need to run into an effects loop that requires possibly a different delay also. Your delays could change, but your drives, you're right. The drives are the biggest part.
Yeah, and I mean, it kind of goes, it's unspoken, but your volume on your delays are going to have to drastically change too.
Yeah. It's
kind of like when you go into a pushed amp and then you go into a completely clean with a lot of headroom amp, you're just going to have to change the volume of your delays. But luckily the Halo, you got presets, so I'm good there.
Yeah.
But yeah, I've just noticed like I'm not as happy with my board, so I'm gonna have to change it up. When I go with the Tweed, I'll have to have different pedals for my Princeton, and I'll have to do the same thing with the Vox. And I was really hoping at least the Tweed and the Vox would be similar enough where I could keep them, and I think that probably is true. But so there comes a point where like you can try to generalize as much as you can, but then you're not going to totally be happy. And I'm not going to be as inspired. So like I've kind of just accepted the fact that if I go like midway, oh, it works for this and it works for this, but I'm not super happy with both, I'd rather just switch it up and be completely happy with one amp and these set of pedals and this amp and these set of pedals.
Oh, say change it up. Change it up.
I think with your big board, you've been kind of finding a middle ground like you're talking about. But I think with your big board too, you've also tried to cover lots of ground.
I have, and also I've got more space for drives. So if this doesn't work with this, well, then this other pedal works.
Yeah, you just want your board big enough where you can have a drive pedal for every amp you might run into.
Yeah, that's it. That's all I asked for.
Yeah, and I'm not a fan of that personally, that type of like trying to find that middle ground like you're talking about. And that's why I've just conceded the fact of every time I plug into a different amp, one of my different amps, I'm going to be changing my drive section.
Scream it! Change it up!
There's a few things that will stay no matter what. I think it's easy to keep boost pedals. I think a lot of boost pedals will stay the same. If you're a guy like, that's got a specific drive that he uses all the time, maybe going into a different amp, a new amp especially, you should try some different stuff.
Yeah, that's a good, segue. We were talking about hotcakes a while back. And with this cleanish style amp, I'm like, man, I wonder how a hotcake would sound in this Princeton. I know a lot of people use them in Voxes, but I'm just curious. I've not really messed with blues drivers.
So many good pedals out there. It is hard to try them all. And then you get an amp and you like go down the rabbit hole of what's the best pedal for this amp or whatever.
That's the thing.
And then you get deep in the rabbit hole of, okay, I like this style pedal. Which version of it do I want to get? And before you know it, you forget like, oh yeah, I haven't tried this pedal out, or I haven't tried this pedal out. I should check that out too.
And we've talked heavily on pedals on getting a new amp. But man, my guitars, they've changed like what I enjoy in the amp too. So because with my Tweed, I really loved my Strat. I really loved my SG. The Tele was fine, I really like the Tele. But now when it comes to the Princeton, to me, the Strat is the sound.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It's just funny how like you change an amp and it entirely changes like what you think you need.
Well, and then we're talking about combos here. If you change heads and you get a new head, you also have to think about what speaker combination, speaker cabinet do I want to run into.
That's a whole nother bag of worms.
It is, but new amp, new problems. I got a new amp, but now my new problem is I got to find a cabinet that I like with it.
So what I'm trying to say is when you get a new amp, just budget for more pedals, maybe a new guitar, It's got to be...
I wouldn't say that. I wouldn't say that. What I would say is if you get a new amp, I would pull out some of your old pedals you've got that maybe you were a fan of at one time or they didn't work with your amp or whatever. Because we've all got an extra drive pedal or two in the back, right? So go grab those, throw them on a little pedal board where you can just try out a bunch of drives. Whenever I got a new amp here a while back, what I done was I actually pulled my board completely apart and I stuck like 8 drive pedals on there. That's the only thing that was on my board, was like 8 drive pedals.
Which do I like the most?
And I was just, and I would, which one do I like the most? And then I would be like, well, I don't like that one. So I pulled it off my board and I would narrow it down. And then I would start playing like, which ones stack? Because I do like to stack pedals. Not everybody likes that. But then I was like, which ones stack well?
Yeah.
It's like, well, those don't stack that well, but I like them separately. What if I flip their spots and try to stack them?
I think a lot of people, when they buy a new amp, if you are one of those people that gets an overdrive pedal and then sells it, you're going to live in a lot of regret. Because you're probably going to be like, oh, I could have used that one pedal that I just sold. So I try to hold on to it a little bit, but if it's completely trashed, then,
It's also a matter of if you're changing styles of amps. If you're changing styles of amps, absolutely. If you're staying in the same realm of amps because you found like, oh, I really like blackface amps. I really like Marshall amps. I really like whatever style.
It has to do with the EQ structure.
It's a little easier to dump some pedals that you're like, obviously, I don't like that pedal.
Right.
So you want to go ahead and move into your gas or pass?
Yep. So gas or pass, mine is all about Chase Bliss, the Tonal Recall. So they don't make it anymore.
No.
All right. On the used market, this sucker has went up and up. You can find them for around $400. I mean, if you're lucky.
I saw one the other day for $300.
Really?
I saw one the other day for $300.
Okay.
So there's the blue knob and the red knob version. I forget which one's more sought after. I think it's a red knob.
Yeah, everybody wants the red knob.
Okay, it was the blue knob version, but it was $300. I thought that was pretty reasonable.
Not bad. But what I like about it is not only does it have, a couple presets there, you got tap tempo, but it's got pretty much a slapback that's kind of like a DM2, and then it's got a little bit longer of a delay that's kind of like a Memory Man.
Yeah.
And to me, those are requirements.
Yeah.
Like for my delay sound, those are like my requirements. I would like to have a tape delay on there, and then everything as far as delays would be covered for me. I look for DM2, Echoplex, and Memory Man. So that's kind of my realm. Are you wanting this pedal? Is this something you want to do?
So Tonal Recall is really interesting to me. So it's in the 2 pedals, the way I understand it too is you can't use both of them at the same time, the 2 different presets or whatever. You have to use one delay or the other.
Yeah, that is true.
It's the way I understand it, which is a little bit of a bummer and means that it can't be my do-it-all delay. However,
but you can adjust the modulation.
You can change the modulation.
It's got 20 dip switches.
Oh my gosh, it's got so much going on it. To be honest with you, when I look at this pedal, it kind of gives me a headache.
Yeah.
But also,
once you look into it though, it's not that bad.
No, it's not.
On the surface, you're like, there's no way I'm gonna be able to do this. But then you look at it and you're like, okay, it makes sense.
Yeah. And it is pretty simplified once you break it down. And it sounds great.
Yeah.
I mean, it sounds really good. I think this is a complete gas for me.
Okay.
I would love to get a hold of this pedal because it does sound great. It's got a great Memory Man sound. It's got a great DM2 sound. I do love tons of delays. We've talked about that a lot. I love tons of different options for my delays. But I don't have to have one delay pedal, A.
Right.
And
well, you won't have one delay.
No, not the way I like them. And I want to be able to change that variety up a little bit.
Yeah.
So it's got tap tempo. I love that.
Yeah.
It really would fix, for you especially, it would fix almost all your, I don't want to say it would fix all your problems, but it would take care of a lot of your delay.
It would. I think I would just need a tape delay on there.
Yeah, if you had like a little Echoplex delay with a tap tempo on there too, or some type of, tape delay with tap tempo, that would give you your slapback with your DM2, your longer delay with your deluxe Memory Man sound, and then you'd have your Echoplex, and 2 of them would have tap tempo on there.
Yeah, and we should say, I don't think Chase Bliss directly said it's a DM2 sound and a Memory Man sound, but when you listen to the demos, I mean, it's kind of...
When you listen to them, and then you start looking at the chips, the chip set that they used in there is the same chip set that they used in the DM2 and the Memory Man. It's pretty obvious that that's what they used.
Yeah.
And maybe they did speak out and say that's what we were going for. I don't remember.
I don't think they did.
Maybe.
I don't think specifically, but
It's a gas
regardless,
for me. It's a gas.
I think it's a great pedal.
Okay, is it a gas for you?
Absolutely.
Okay. All right, well, let's go ahead and move into my gas or pass. So my gas or pass is going to be the Tone Duellist.
Uh-huh.
This is that pedal you see on all these Instagram posts and all these fancy boards that are nicely put together with all the cables tied up together. It's very popular. It's a tube screamer and a blues breaker.
Wow, original.
Really original. So you can flip the sides.
Right.
Of course, you can do true bypass, buffered bypass stuff. There's all kinds of like low cut features and high cut features, little dip switches and things in there. Is this something you're interested in? I know it is popular, and you're kind of on the fence about blues breakers. So is this something you're interested in?
I've looked into them. I'm not gonna say I totally am against it. Here's the problem I have is
I didn't mention it's $350.
right. To me, it is a pass. I'll just preface that. But here's why. I mean, first of all, you've got JHS makes the double barrel. Blues breaker, tube screamer. I'm sure there's thousands of other companies that are doing the same thing. The Pantheon's technically 2 blues breakers, but you could narrow that kind of EQ structure and do the same thing with it.
It's the same thing, he says.
All right, anyways. But, I mean, think about it. There are so many companies doing a tube screamer and a blues breaker together.
Tube scraper. That's a different pedal, folks.
Yeah, it's got a little bitey sound to it.
That's right.
But I gotta be honest, I'm kind of over the blues breaker tube screamer thing. Like, are they 2 stackable pedals? Do they sound good? Yes. I'm not saying they don't. If I remember right, this is made in the UK, right?
Yeah, is this a John Mayer thing? I'm sorry to like totally blow that thing off there. I think it is. I believe you're correct. But is this totally a John Mayer thing? That's the blues breaker tube screamer combination? Is that where it comes from?
I don't know if that's where it comes from, but that's what people just once they started making these, like those are the only 2 combos apparently that can be in a 2-in-1 pedal.
It's in a lot of them.
I'm tired of it.
Yeah.
Like, can we get? I like the idea of the protein. You know, you got a blues breaker and a Noble style, but like, can we get away from blues breaker tube screamer? Can we do something different?
Yeah.
Like, I like the idea of the gearbox, pinnacle, and like a K-type pedal.
Yeah.
The rewired. It's like a sparkle drive.
There's a lot of dual pedals out there. We could keep naming them.
Okay. Anyways, but like, I'm tired of the blues breaker tube screamer thing.
Okay, so you're just over it.
I think I'm just over these. I say that, but I do have a hankering for like a double barrel.
Yeah. Tone looks so cool. And
That's what matters is the looks.
no, I don't mean necessarily the look. Now, I'll tell you what, I do like the graphics and everything on it.
I do too. Wait, they had this thing, and I don't even remember what the 2 pedals were inside of it, so don't hate me. But they made this blues power pedal. They don't make it anymore.
They just reissued it, I think.
Okay.
So they've just put out a new Octaland, which is another pedal from Tone that I'm really interested in.
We should get some of their pedals sometime.
The new fuzz that they've got out there.
I really like their fuzz.
They've got the germanium and the silicon one.
the big knob that says fuzz. I mean, what can you go wrong?
Listen, folks, you hear how he's talking about it? This is definitely a gas for him. He just doesn't want to admit it.
No, not the Duelist. The fuzz pedal sounds great. I don't know. I'm just over this whole setup. I think you're right. I think it has to do with John Mayer. Then you got like everyone talks about the Cornerstone Gladio too.
That's a different thing.
It is. I'm just saying. I think I'm getting burnt out.
I did not expect him to go off like this.
There's a tangent that I just can't let go right now. So
yeah. Well, I'm interested in it. It's a gas for me.
pass.
And I'm not even really a tube screamer guy.
No,
but,
you're not.
But the sounds put together sounds
To
so
be
good.
fair, it's a modified tube screamer that's a wider sound, so it's not. It's more like a Green Rhino.
And it's so tweakable. There's so many like dip switches and like little EQ things you can change about it. It doesn't feel like, you know, we're saying tube screamer bass, but they've changed it dramatically.
Like I said, it's more like a Green Rhino, and I do like a Green Rhino.
Yeah, you do. I don't know. It's a gas for me. I'm going to buy one probably, and then you'll want one. That's what's going to happen. You'll have to come on here and...
Prove me wrong. That's
Okay.
all I got to say.
Sounds good. Well, let's go ahead and move into my main topic then.
Okay.
So I wanted to ask you the question, because we kind of talked about cabinets the other day, and you mentioned something. Today, we've got all these modelers and silent stages going on, and we got to push to get a 112 combo or 212 cab sometimes on the stage. But in today's day and age, you can see the prices dropping on these 412s because nobody's really taking them out. Are 412 cabinets irrelevant?
I don't know why, but it bothered me how you said irrelevant. Irrelevant. Isn't it?
Irrelevant.
Irrelevant.
Yeah.
I don't know why.
I think I was just trying to put an emphasis on the word, and it just came out wrong.
It just bothered me. It's kind of like...
Irrelevant.
Everyone makes fun of me because I say you draw with crowns. But it's crayons.
Yeah, crayons.
And I can't get that. Or is it syrup and syrup? See? I don't know.
I don't know. All of our viewers over in the UK are going to tell us that we're saying it wrong every time we say it.
Well, first of all, it's valves, not tubes.
That's true. That's true.
But anyways, 412 cabs irrelevant. So, I don't know if we'll take flack for this or not. I don't know. It doesn't matter because I'm going to say it. If you're a studio musician or play stages that, like have at least 1,000 people, great. You don't need it otherwise. 412s, I think they're outdated. 412s are outdated with the current setup we have, as far as quiet stages, as far as bedroom use, going to a local gig. You don't need a 412 because a lot of things nowadays you can either mic the amp or you can plug directly into the board. You really don't need to move sound that much anymore. No one's playing loud gigs anymore, that's for sure, unless you're going outside. But when are you going to use a 412 outside? Unless you're not micing your amp and you're playing outside. And even then, you don't really need a 412. It's really for the studio musician or like big name artists. I don't think you need a 412. I think they're outdated at this point. Now, do they have a sound of their own? Yes, I'm not saying they don't, right? There is a whole feel to it. There's a whole, there is a sound difference when you mic, I feel like, because you just get more of a wide array of a sound. But practicality wise, outdated.
Yeah, so, that is, I can't disagree more. I honestly can't disagree more. They're definitely not, they're not outdated. It is not a sound thing, and it's not a volume thing, I should say. It is not a volume thing whatsoever with a 412. A 412 is all about the sound and the feel. It's about room filling, obviously, but it's about the feel of a 412. There's nothing quite like a closed back 412 if you're playing rock music, classic rock, some of that type of stuff. There's just a feel difference. You don't have to play it louder. But when you play a 112, even closed back 112 or 212 closed back, there's some good ones out there. Those like Thiel cabinets that Bogner's made, Bogner, however you say that.
Yeah.
Mesa's made some of that stuff. I think Friedman cabinets are really big sounding.
They are.
And big feeling. But there's nothing like plugging an amp into a 412 cabinet, even if the volume, like decibel rating, is the exact same. I think it feels completely different. I think the way you described it and the way you're saying that they're not needed, especially if you don't play at least 1,000 people or you're not playing some arena gig. I think the way you're thinking about that is the same way that some people think about a Princeton reverb on the stage whenever they're trying to get a silent stage. You don't need that. You can just plug into a modeler. And your thoughts and your view whenever they say that is, no, it's about my feel. It's about how it reacts to my picking. It's about how it reacts whenever I stop real quick and the sound pressure behind me. And that's the difference for me in a 412, is it's not about the volume. It's about the feel. It's about how it reacts back to me.
I get the feel thing. I think when you go to a local gig, who wants to take this for a feel? Nobody.
I'm over the thoughts of if the drummer can carry all of his drums and all of his cymbals and all of his cases and like make 16 trips in and out, dude, I can have one person help me carry a 412 in. If we're carrying subs in, if we're moving, You know what I mean?
I don't know.
I do understand what you're saying. And if I'm playing a gig where there's 50 people there, no, I don't need a 412 cabinet for that. But if I'm playing anywhere halfway decent sized, if there's a decent stage, there is no reason why you can't take a 412 cabinet and feel great with that. There's nothing that says rock and roll more than a 412 cabinet, A. But B, there's nothing that feels and sounds the same way as a 412.
Yeah. We just see things differently.
Otherwise, play your Helix, play your Kemper, because you don't need it. You know, it's not needed anymore.
I think you're taking this out of proportion. You're taking like an inch a mile here.
I don't think so.
Yeah, you are. No one needs this.
How much?
No one needs this. I mean, I guess in your defense, no one needs a amp on stage.
No one needs a Princeton.
No one needs it. However, an amp on stage versus plugging directly in is not even comparable to a Princeton to this.
Nothing compared.
Not even
You're right.
No.
You're right. This doesn't even kind of compare to a Princeton and a Princeton.
No,
on
I'm
stage.
saying your argument does not compare. Your argument does not compare. This to me is like, it's way overkill. It's way overkill.
An AC-15's overkill.
No, that doesn't even make sense.
The stage is silent. Stage is silent. The AC-15 is overkill.
It won't be silent.
Okay.
It won't be silent.
Do you guys understand where I'm coming from?
I don't think he understands where I'm coming from. In what world? You're getting me all hot and bothered now. That's the wrong. He's my brother. Don't take that any further than it needs to. This, I don't know. I'm just saying a 412. Who needs it anymore? Who needs one? I mean, yes, there's a feel, but when it comes down to it, like when the sound comes out of the speakers, out of a greenback to a 212 greenback, why do we care that much?
I think what it comes down to is no one needs it. You're right. Just like no one needs a twin, no one needs an AC-30. We can take this down to like no one needs all that type of stuff. You're right. You don't need it. I don't need this pedal board with really nice pedals on there. I could use whatever junk. I don't need a nice deluxe reverb. I could use...
Do you truly feel that this inspires you differently than if you would have a 212?
Yeah, I think it does. On the right gig. At the right... Not every gig.
Because this and a 212 does not inspire me differently.
And that's the difference. In some people, a mono rig inspires them a ton. We're both mono players. We don't play in stereo real often or wet dry. But for some people...
Not saying that we wouldn't like to.
No, I'm actually interested in it, and that's another topic for another day I want to get into. But some people, just like this would inspire me to play certain gigs, a wet dry wet rig inspires them just as much. So they're going to take the time to haul 3 different cabinets, 112s or 212s or whatever, and a power amp and a head and all this stuff. The same way they're inspired to do that, this inspires me, and I think it inspires a lot of people to play differently. Just like different guitars will inspire people differently.
All right, so if this inspires you, take this to your next acoustic gig. That's what you're saying. Take whatever inspires you to the gig. Right? That's what you're saying.
I'm saying take whatever inspires you to the gig. Absolutely. Absolutely. If something inspires you to play and drives you in a new direction that you wouldn't normally go into, you should take it.
And I'm saying you're crazy.
Well, you're already doing that, though. You're taking stuff that inspires you to gigs.
That is not going to get me, like, yelled out of the band.
Right. I'm not saying you have to play any louder. I'm saying you have to take it to a gig that's reasonable.
Can we not agree that this is going to fill the space and push more air than a 110?
Well, of course it's going to.
There we go. Thank you.
Of course it's going to.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Case rested.
You just have to take it to a comparable gig. I'm obviously not going to take that to a singer-songwriter gig, right?
Yeah.
But if at the gig, the other guitar player is using a 212
I tell you
cabinet,
what, you know what this tells me?
What?
Your gigs are bigger than mine. Maybe I have less people at mine. I don't know.
No, what I just mean, like, if the other guitar player is playing a 212 Friedman or something like that, I would have no problem taking this. You know? I'm not going to turn it up any louder.
I disagree.
Yeah, I understand that.
Disagree, Bob.
Where do you guys sit on this? What do you guys think? Put it down below.
Let us know, all right? Because, I mean, we obviously can't get along. So,
See you guys next week.
see ya.